Let me know when you guys are ready and I'll just go from there.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right, let's begin. The global work environment is undergoing a dynamic change. Millennials will represent 75% of the global workforce by 2025. The COVID-19 has created more demand for remote workers. In November 2021, 4.5 million people quit their jobs. Resignations were the highest in the technology and healthcare sectors. What is causing the Great Resignation? Is it a poor hiring strategy, lack of professional development, lack of alignment with company vision and goals, a toxic workplace culture, or employee burnout? On average, a job position gets around 250 applicants. Retaining employees and improving productivity levels are the biggest challenges for human resource leaders today. US businesses lose $11 billion each year due to employee turnover, and it costs them $550 billion due to disengaged employees. What is the way out of this global workplace challenge? Emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence can save over 75% of careers from being derailed due to lack of emotional competencies. But is it realistic? What does an organization with high emotional intelligence look like? Let's talk numbers. We'll start with Southwest Airlines. This company has 4% voluntary turnover, 44 consecutive years of profitability, no layoffs, no furloughs ever, even during the pandemic. 93% of employees at a Motorola manufacturing plant became more productive after they adopted a stress reduction and emotional intelligence program. A large hospital reduced their critical care nursing turnover from 65 to 15% within 18 months of implementing an emotional intelligence screening assessment. When employees feel valued and understood, they are more likely to be engaged. Emotionally intelligent managers know when to use video chats and when to use traditional digital communication in this remote age. Transition to remote work has led to new challenges. In a remote setting, it's more difficult to recognize when people need assistance. This is why we need managers with high emotional intelligence in this time and era. As per Glassdoor, 67% of job seekers consider diversity as an important factor. And as per McKinsey, businesses that support and embrace diversity have a 25% higher chance of financially outperforming those that do not. How can emotional intelligence boost DEI in the workplace? Emotional intelligence can help with empathy, with unconscious or implicit bias, with building an inclusive culture, help in improving mindfulness, help in improving constructive thinking. EQMatch enables organizations to identify highly emotionally intelligent candidates. We envision a workplace where employees are happy, productive, and emotionally intelligent. With EQMatch recruiting, you can shortlist highly emotionally candidates in just 3 steps using an intuitive platform. And with EQMatch for Teams, you can assess the emotional intelligence of existing team members and build productive teams. Let me tell you the story behind EQMatch. In 2018, while working a C-suite role, I was shocked to observe that even the most amazing talent was not productive and that turnover was high. When I brought this up to the HR, she suggested that we could make more interviews more detailed and in-depth to avoid poor hires. I saw that several employees were stressed and unhappy. Upon talking to HR leaders at small and large companies, I realized this is a universal issue. Is a piece of paper enough to assess a human being's potential? I kept wondering how much time, energy, emotions, and money is wasted due to a poor hiring process. All these thoughts kept haunting me. I just could not stop thinking about it. And I had an epiphany one day. What if we can look beyond the resumes to assess a human being using emotional intelligence? In June 2019, this manifested into Andre and I meeting for a cup of coffee and discussing the idea in detail, an emotional intelligence idea, and EQMatch was born. We brought it in 2 PhDs in organizational psychology to create a framework that is both scientific and reliable. At EQMatch, we believe that before employees, we are human beings, and every human being has a unique personality. Once we understand how to identify and manage our emotions as well as others' emotions, we function better in different settings. Understanding this is key to improving performance, building better teams, and creating a happy work environment. At EQMatch, we want to help organizations build happier and more productive teams through emotional intelligence. How can you be part of this transformative journey? We would love for you to use EQMatch to recruit highly emotionally intelligent candidates and build better teams in your company. Alternatively, you can become one of our exclusive partners, and we are also open to investors. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. This might be the first video style presentation we've seen like this, at least in a while, since I've been around. So very, very nice. Before I get to Eric's first question, can you just go in a little more detail about the product itself and exactly what your services are and maybe your business model, which I think will help frame the rest of our discussion and questions?
Sure. Thanks, Josh. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 2 solutions. One is for recruiting. The best way to put it is, let's say you are a human resource leader and you have 100 applicants for a specific job, and you have already handpicked some of the applicants based on their talent, their experience, and their skills, which you can see or gauge from the resume. What you do is then you select those applicants, you import those into our solution, and with a click of one button, you can send them the assessment. Once those applicants take the assessment, you can see all the results on our dashboard inside of the EQMatch solution across 4 key areas of emotional intelligence: managing own emotions, managing other emotions, and so on. And we also allow you to sort those scores based on those 4 key areas. And then it's for you to decide as a human resource person, which areas of emotional intelligence does the person lack, and which areas are they really strong at. So it gives you a very comprehensive and holistic view of the emotional intelligence levels across 4 areas. That's for recruiting. The second thing is, what we believe is, once you have a plant, you have to water them every single day. It doesn't stop. So you have to nurture your candidates. So when you have existing employees, it's important to also build and hone that culture of emotional intelligence. And that's where our second solution, which is emotional intelligence for teams, or EQMatch for teams, come into play. There you can do the same thing. Instead of that candidate, these would be existing team members. So you can put the team members into our solution, send them the assessment time and again, because as we are a very objective assessment model, our framework believes, and it's scientifically proven as well, that personality is not static, it's dynamic. So how we feel today versus how we feel in the next few days might not be the same. So that's where EQMatch teams come into play to help you gauge the emotional intelligence level of existing team members and understand how we can improve their EI or EQ levels to build and improve productivity. So that's pretty much the 2 solutions in a nutshell. And to answer your second question, Josh, we are a subscription as a service. Our solution is available for purchase either on a monthly basis or an annual basis. With an annual basis, you save almost 35 to 40% on the ticket. So that's pretty much EQMatch solution and the model itself.
Thank you. Thank you. So along the lines of employees, Eric has a question. Some of these issues, he says, some of these issues also come down to toxic bosses. So what happens when a toxic boss is outed by EQMatch?
Great question. So is Eric going to ask something, or should I just answer?
I think that was a question, because he's saying some of these stress and productivity issues come down to toxic bosses. So let's say EQMatch finds a toxic boss. What happens to that person? Are you involved with that process, I guess, or is that like out of your hands? You just label them, or you flag them and that's it? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, so in one of the slides when I was talking about, we said that emotional intelligence can help with culture and awareness, and it can help you understand why people are not happy or not productive. So let's assume the fact that there's a toxic boss. Our solution is going to gauge the EI or EQ level of that person, he or she, and across the 4 levels. Now, the human resource leader or the in charge of that department, who is in charge of this area, is going to look at those 4 areas of that person and see these are the areas where this person can improve. Now, there are 2 options that we can do here. One, we have organization psychologists who can go and deliver in-house training, or they can also do a training over Zoom to help them with emotional intelligence, how you can build emotional intelligence. So we have a framework for training as well. It's too early right now because we are a startup, but we already have that in place, that if there is a toxic culture, we can address that through emotional intelligence training. And our training is not really long and boring training. We believe in short stints. And that's the way, or bites of courses. So it's going to be delivered in those shorter frames. And that would allow people to consume content in a much better way through our organization psychologists.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you. Tammy would like to know if current employees have the option to opt out of taking the EQ assessments. It's a really good question.
Yes. So, once the human resource people can send the assessments to existing employees, we have the model in place where they can either click on the assessment and take it, or they cannot. So it's not a problem. And we can even have more features in the solution, and we have a feedback mechanism as well. So if there's any specific feature that needs to be there in the solution, we can build it pretty quickly.
Very cool. Mark's question is, how have you validated your assessment tool? So are there any published results? How does your assessment compare to other acceptable, if there are any other acceptable tools out there?
That's a great question. There are two ways I can answer that. Let me first preface that about the Myers-Briggs, which is one of the most popular assessments out there. The limitations that we saw with the MBTI is that it considers human personality as a static model. And that's where we wanted to understand and begin the frameworks. So we did 2 years of research along with our PhDs who are highly accomplished in their fields. And we built the framework using scientific research. One of the ways to see the validation and the research itself is if you go to our website, we have a 72-page scientific paper up. Anyone can download that and see the science, the logic, the references behind the framework and how we have built this up.
Got it. Thank you. Rod's question, how much per month and per year? What's your pricing model?
So we start with $39 per assessment, and we have a 3-tier pricing. Now, this is a public face pricing. We also have enterprise pricing, and that actually has a discounted pricing if there are a larger number of seats. I can give you one number is that we were looking at the average revenue per employee across different industries. It ranges in 6 figures easily. So the question we ask is $39 too much to ask for a person that can bring you, a 6-figure revenue per year? So our pricing is very competitive, and we are at least 40% lesser, on the numbers compared to some of the competitors out there.
Got it. Elizabeth, you have a question.
Yes, so I own a staffing consulting company, and so I have 2 particular questions with that hat on in mind. So is this to kind of assess if workers would be volatile to our clients, like on site? That's the first question, because, and think about this too, in your answer, if you don't mind. Does this help me if I'm like hiring for like a call center worker, as in like a representative, a more like entry-level role, or is this better or more feasible if I'm looking at a technology project manager? And then the second question is, let's say if I have my HR hat and I'm sitting in HR position in a company, could this be considered like discriminatory information? Those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Those are
great product.
Very insightful questions, Elizabeth. Thank you very much for sharing that. Let me address those. The first question is, this applies to each and every job, whether it's an entry-level job, whether it's an executive job, it does not matter, because at the end of the day, we are human beings before we are employees at different stages of the career or different verticals. And the second thing I think you asked about discrimination. So we are EEOC compliant. We have done that research. We have already worked on that. Andre can add more details on the EEOC part. Andre, do you want to chime in about the discrimination, please?
Yep. So each assessment will ask a responder to provide their demographic information that will not be shared with an employer. We use that information to ensure that questions that are being asked are not statistically significant, don't produce statistically significant responses for specific race, or sexual orientation, disability status, and things like that. So we're proactively addressing EOC concerns.
And the second part, or I think the first part of the question, Elizabeth, about if the employees will be more volatile. We are not trying to gauge if a person is volatile, not happy, or anything else. What we're trying to understand is in 4 key areas of emotional intelligence, where do they stand today, and how you can use that across different roles. An example could be, let's say you are hiring a team leader who is going to lead a team of 6 people. Obviously, you need a person who can manage other emotions better, because you are dealing with 6, 7 people, and it's your job as a leader to understand the emotions of other people. Now, that applies to everyone as well, but in that case, it would be more highlighted. So I think it's important to understand those 4 key areas. These key areas, we have done a lot of research. There's existing framework behind that, how emotional intelligence. And by the way, Elizabeth, on the 9th of February, we're actually conducting a webinar on how emotional intelligence with EQMatch can help IT and recruiting firms recruit better, source better talent to their clients. We also talk about the specific metrics and KPIs that your clients look at, submission to hire ratio, and so on. So we'd be happy for you to attend that as well to get more information on that.
And I just shared the link to the webinar registration in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully that answered your question, Elizabeth, or at least enough for now. Definitely probably worth a follow-up here.
Thank
Sean.
you, gentlemen.
Yeah, this is fantastic. This is an excellent concept. Business world needs it. Even if you cut down the churn rate, it will show up in ROI.
Yes.
Amazing product. But my concern is the leaders at the top.
Yes.
Everything starts from the top. You can have all these beautiful, great ideas. Doesn't mean a thing if the top guy is not following it. So your challenge becomes how to get the top guy believing in it.
Yes.
I mean top, at the top. That's why the Southwest Airline, you give an example, you can give IKEA example, they're amazing. That's the reason they're successful. Salesforce is another one.
Yes.
They do what they preach at the
Yes.
top.
Absolutely.
And, that's your major challenge. If you can somehow influence that, that will be amazing.
Now, that makes a lot of sense, Shan. Thank you for sharing that feedback.
And Rod, you have a question?
Yes. You said you're $39, and you can go out and get a myriad of different personality tests for a lot less money. What differentiates you that is easy to understand, like a 1-sentence definition of what differentiates you from Myers-Briggs or other personality or emotional tests that really sets you apart enough to justify a much higher price?
To answer your question about the MBTI or the Myers-Briggs believes personality is static. We don't believe personality is static. So that's a 1-sentence answer for the MBTI.
But why does that matter?
It matters because when we go to work, when we are in any settings, whether it's personal or professional, we bring a lot of emotions to work. We do not work in isolation or in buckets. Human beings bring their personal emotions, bring their professional emotions, and they all combine when we are doing anything, whether we are having an interaction with a friend or whether we are working at a workplace. So I think we have to not bucket these things like a lot of these solutions think about that, leave your emotions at work. That's not correct, because it's not humanly possible to do that. So we understand that people bring their emotions at work. So our solution, the framework that we have developed, by the way, it's a set of 68 questions that takes around 10 to 15, 20 minutes to fill. And by the way, there's more than one right answer. So it's very difficult for anyone to fake our test, unlike some of the other more subjective tests out there. And that's another answer, by the way. A lot of these tests that you're talking about are very subjective in nature. Ours is not subjective. We are very objective in the framework, in the algorithm as well.
So
Thank you.
just a follow up real quick, if I can, Josh.
Please.
Yeah, quick, please.
What I'm thinking then is that as you do your presentation, I don't know if there was enough, maybe I'm wrong, but for me, there wasn't enough differentiation of how much emotions matter and how much, because, you know, the questions were brought up, you know, does this predict a violent person or, you know, all these different kinds of things. And in your presentation, I didn't feel the impact of that. And so maybe it was just me not picking up on it, maybe, but that's, I think that you have something really special here with what you have, but I don't think that the impact of your presentation showed it.
Rod, just one thought on that. The goal of this presentation was not a deep dive into the solution and the algorithm behind that, but the story behind that and what we're trying to achieve.
I completely understand, but you need to be able to convey that emotion in 30 seconds in any kind of presentation.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what it is, because once you hook someone and they understand truly emotionally what you're teaching, and what you have, then your close rate is going to go so much higher, your lead rate is going to go so much higher. And so any presentation that you give, you've got to focus on what that emotional impact truly is. And I understand, you know, the employee engagement, all those things, that's important, but it doesn't show the power of what you have.
Okay, we'll have to continue this. I apologize, but I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but we need to move on to our next presentation.
But I do accept, I think Rod's feedback is important. We are definitely going to incorporate that and polish this further as well. Rod, thank you very much for sharing that.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to turn to Eric for our final question.
All right, Shashank, thank you very much. The final question is, what can we as a community do for you?
Thank you very much, Eric. Very pertinent question. So at this point of time, we are seeking help in 3 areas. One, if you or any organization in the network wants to use our solution, we would be happy to onboard them at a, you know, even a discounted rate, because, you know, this is a community. We want to give back to the community, and this is a bigger picture that we are focusing on. That's the first thing. The second thing is we also partner with some of the human resource and consulting firms. So if there's any HR consulting firm wants to partner us, we have a separate package for them as well. We would love to invite them for a demo, and we have free trial on the website as well. And the third thing is, if you or anyone wants to invest in us, we are open to discussion. The whole premise of investing is to hire more people, employees, especially in some areas like enterprise sales and account-based marketing, to scale the solution and market to enterprises across the US.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you very much. And thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you very much, Eric.
And now we want to welcome Vijaisenthil Padmanabhan from CandidHire, and another HR play. So Vijay, can you tell us about what you have?
Sure, Eric. Thanks for that introduction. Yes, I'm very interested to learn about EQMatch, because we coincidentally live in the same HR tech space. And I see a lot of complementing features between EQMatch and CandidHire. And I would love to have a offline conversation with Shashank later. That's great to know. So let me share my screen real quick and take this forward. You should be seeing my screen momentarily. Let me know once you're seeing my screen.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Once again, good morning, everyone. Today, let's discuss the need of disruption in the HR industry and the need to reimagine the way we work today. CandidHire is a platform which is being built with an objective to let us live beyond work. Right? I'm Vijay, the CEO of the company and a founding team member. And thank you all again for joining us to listen about CandidHire today. And let me move on. For some reason, it's not letting me move. There you go. So as in EQMatch, you were hearing about great resignation. Here are some numbers, stunning numbers in my opinion when I saw them the first time. And more than 33 million US workers have quit their jobs in just the last 9 months. And there was a survey done by McKinsey out of 250 employers. 53% said there is a relatively huge number of resignations happening than the previous years. And 33% said that this trend is likely to increase in upcoming months. Out of 5,800 employees, 15% recently quit, and 34% will most likely quit in 3 to 6 months. Until this point, it is not uncommon for us to think that this happened because of the pandemic, right? But the what moment comes after this. 5% of the employees quit without a job offer in hand, and 22% will most likely quit without a job offer in hand, right? And we should also keep this in mind, this survey was done right after the employment benefits were ended. And in fact, November 2021 alone saw 4.5 million people quit their jobs. And that's great resignation for us, right? And it's completely stunning for me when I looked at the last few numbers, why people would leave without a job offer in hand, right? And what's causing this? What's underlying factor behind this? So basically, people are fed up with soul-crushing jobs, tired of transactional relationship between employee and employer, and the inability to put the children, family, and the society first, right? And in fact, I have personally experienced dealing with interns in my previous organizations, and this was even before pandemic, when they were offered with full-time job with hefty packages and benefits, they did not take it. And while probing into reason, this is what I found. So they were actually looking for a vision and mission-driven work, right? They want to know the whys and whats and hows of the work they perform. They want to see the social impact they are making during the work or through their work. They care about work-life balance, personal well-being, and security beyond those hefty packages. And they also look for upward career mobility. So in general, they are entrepreneurial in nature, which was not catered by these companies. And this was Gen Z before pandemic. And the pandemic brought the same behavior changes in almost all the workforce, right? And they felt the essence of living beyond work. So in a sense, they don't want to work in the weekdays to live in the weekend, right? That's we all feel that thing, right? We are actually work during the weekdays to live in the weekends. We are always motivated by the weekends, but that should not be the way we should be working. We should be like living during the whole lifetime. So that's the actual problem we are talking here. And moving on, so translating these problems into a value chain, it is evident that the current workforce needs a sustainable human resource ecosystem, which is equitable, that supports digital, nomad-led, shared gig economy. When we talk about sustainability, for most of us, the only thing comes to our mind is the environment factor. But there are two other pillars, the social and economic pillar, which together brings the equitability. And that's the proposition, the value proposition we are talking about here. So, so far we understand the need, but why now? So what is the size we are talking about here? So post-pandemic, Americans are actually soul searching. They're trying to find the purpose of life. There's a huge demand for such a philosophical reset of the way we work today. At a minimum, there are 27 million independent contract workers in US switching to new jobs every 12 months in average. And this is growing rapidly. So this is a current demand at minimum we are talking about here. And to provide such value, here's a solution we are working on. So we are building a blockchain-based HR service job find marketplace. We have built an AI-based matching algorithm to match the job requirements posted with the active job seekers. We are working on integrating third-party HR services like payroll services, career training. So this platform can evolve as a marketplace itself. So we have planned to incentivize the users based on the activities they perform with crypto tokens. And these crypto tokens can be used to avail other HR service from the marketplace or exchange with other currencies in the crypto exchanges. So we also plan to create a blockchain-based self-sovereign identity for all the candidates, so they can get identified with their credentials with trust. So we will also roll out recommendations for skill developments and career path. So this solution will eventually empower all of us to live a candid lifestyle. We will be able to live while working and earn while sleeping, and which we all dream for, right? And yeah, this is me. I have close to 22 years of IT experience, and I'm an IT solution architect by profession. Myself and Karthik, who is the chief product officer of the company, we ran staffing business for a quite a long time. And actually, the trigger to build such a product came from the painful experience we went through during those times. So Thiru, who is on the call, Karthik is on the call, and Chris is also on the call. He is the CTO of the company. He has close to 25 years of IT experience in various verticals and horizontals. Chris holds the responsibility of marketing, and he also has more than 20 years of market experience. So we are targeting to supply 10% of the demand by the end of 5th year, which is like 2.7 million compared to the previous number you have seen. So we are working on building strategic alliances with HR leaders, advisors, career coaches, and other service providers. So the online marketplace by itself will drive the service providers to supply the demand. So the equilibrium is getting synergized automatically. So the crypto reward program is designed to highly reward the early adopters. So the initial target industries for the first year are the IT and crypto job market. So the audience are pre-informed about the crypto nuances and how to use it, so that it will take less effort for us to educate them initially. And this way, it allows us to grow, start small and grow big. We are also planning to use the social media channels to promote the product features and the crypto rewards and staking features as well. And
Vijay, you've got 1 minute.
Oh yeah, sure. So the recruiters will have this subscribe the platform to post their job requirements and view the matched job candidates' contact details by paying a monthly subscription fee. The platform fee will be charged on percentage basis for all the transactions. The volume of the crypto transaction will contribute towards the increase of token value at the crypto exchanges. So conservatively speaking, we are targeting a year-on-year 24 million revenue within next 5 years. And this is what we are looking for. We are looking for a large number of partnerships to get the ecosystem built and used successfully. And they will be incentivized according to their contributions. And we are looking for a 500K pre-seed round to build this ecosystem as per the technology and business development roadmap laid out by the site. Thank you so much. And I'm open for questions now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Who is your ideal client, your specific, as detailed as you can get, and why?
So the ideal clients are the hiring managers, the staffing companies. They are the ideal clients for us. And in addition, you can also think this becomes a marketplace by itself where the candidates and the employers become the users or the consumers. So the HR service providers like payroll providers or career training or skill evaluation or background verification, these people can look at these two group of people as consumers. So they become clients as well.
Okay. Rod's question, he says, I don't think a crypto solution was justified for the problem you stated. So nowhere in your problem was anything related to crypto mentioned. So how does your description of the problem relate to your solution? How is crypto involved in all of this? Sure. Or why, I guess, maybe is a better question.
Oh yeah, sure. So the crypto, basically, we are actually not thinking of crypto as a static value, right? So crypto actually, we are planning to roll out in the exchanges, and with the volume of the transactions, the value of the crypto will also go high. So that's what we are targeting for. So when you start earning cryptos, we will be able to see the increase in value of what we have earned so far. So for example, right, today, I usually ask this question. So who built Facebook is the question I usually ask. So people usually say multiple answers, Mark and few others, the engineers. But I would say we built Facebook, right? But then when we wanted to post an ad today, we pay back to Facebook again, right? So that's an irony we are seeing today. But with this platform, we will be able to earn for the contribution we make. And there's a staking option in crypto where the staking option will also bring a passive income for you for the contributions you make. So put together, it's a large ecosystem we are building here, so that we can the crypto will be more relevant in that manner.
Just as a follow-up,
Sure.
but in your problem description, you didn't even say that you needed incentives to make something better. And so what I'm looking at is a major disjoint between your problem and your solution. I can see the benefits of crypto, but to me, there was no transition and there's no relation to the two from what you said in your presentation. That's what I was trying to point out.
Gotcha. I mean, that's a valid point, and a point noted. We'll address it.
Yeah, what Rod said, and also it sounds like you're using the benefits of blockchain, because
Right.
crypto is just a subset of that. So maybe blockchain or explaining it that way seems to be the major benefit, not so much crypto, because you think of that more as the currency aspect of blockchain.
Gotcha. Yep, sure.
For what it's worth. So is there specific IP here that you have that you can protect? How are you going to defend this? Or is this a branding play? Is this something where you just got to be first to market of this kind of idea and do it that way? What's your ability to defend this against someone coming in and just copying you?
Yeah, so we are working on patenting this process. Basically, it's utility patent we are filing, and we are working on it. So the whole process will be patented. And obviously, we do have the underlying AI-based matching algorithm. So that's our core IP, which cannot be mimicked by others, because that's the soul of the whole product. That's where people come in and see the value first, and then get along in the ecosystem.
Okay. And who's your competition at this point?
Leaving out the crypto, we have encountered one more competition. Sorry, not leaving out the crypto, leaving out the other overall ecosystem, the marketplace part of it. There's a company called OneDefine, and they are incentivizing with cryptos as well, but they are not looking at it as a large marketplace kind of thing. That's the closest competition we have seen so far.
Okay. And then along the same lines, who can you collaborate with? Who's like upstream or downstream that would be perfect to collaborate with in the industry or related industry?
All the HR service providers are the collaborators here. And the beauty of this is when they contribute, they can do transactions in the same crypto as well. So it's economics by itself. You can envision the whole product, right? And those are the upstream collaborations we are looking for at this point.
Got it. Thank you. Elizabeth, you have a question.
Yes, as I mentioned before, so I own a staffing consulting company. The part that stuck out to me was the AI. So when you say AI, are you talking about the actual candidates and scoring them or ranking them, or what do you mean by the AI?
So the AI actually does analyze the candidate's skills, work experience, location, desired location, all the parameters against the job requirements, and do a artificial intelligence matching, and then say this profile matches this much percentage for your requirement. And in fact, when a job requirement is posted, it actually scans through all the active job seekers profile and then sorts based on the matching percentage for the recruiters.
So, and sorry, follow-up question as well. So I've worked on multiple platforms. Some of them rank them as far as just saying low, medium, or high. Some of them rank them based on a 1 to 100 score. Mm-hmm. And then some maybe alphabetize them. I'm still not getting, outside of like, scanning for keywords that match up with the actual job description and the resume. How visually will the person understand how they're ranked? And also when you say making money kind of like in your sleep, I don't get that part, because that has to be done, actively. Expand on both of those, please.
Yeah, sure. So when I say earn while you sleep, that's the staking option of the crypto I was talking about. Basically, when you stake crypto tokens, it gives you passive income. So the more the crypto tokens you stake, the more the passive income you get. So basically, how do you earn more tokens? You contribute towards the platform. And by, for example, one example is as a candidate, basically we do have a unique a model here during the hiring process. When the candidates match with the job requirements, the candidate will be notified. At the same time, the hiring manager will be notified. But for the hiring managers to connect with the candidate, the hiring manager should get consent from the candidate before he can connect with him or her, right? So for that, the candidate should give a consent back. I am available and I am interested in this job. So to give the consent back, they will be incentivized with a reward token, right? And for referrals, they will be rewarded with tokens. So there are multiple activities that they can perform to earn tokens. So by earning token, they can stake and make a passive income out of it. So more they contribute in the platform, more they earn and more they stake, so they can get a passive income. That's the concept of earn while you sleep part of it. Hope I answered.
I am totally confused, and my first concern was not addressed. So maybe talk about it at another time. I'm not seeing, there's a huge disconnect for me. But I wish you the best. I think definitely it's on its way.
Oh, thanks.
Awesome. And so Jane put some resources in the chat, so be sure you download the chat and keep those. Mark's question, have you validated your AI approach? And if I hire based on your assessment and the candidate does not perform well, who pays? How am I compensated? Oh, is this? Okay, I'll just leave it at that. Have you validated your AI approach?
Yeah, so we ourselves are, I mean, this product, the AI piece of it is already launched as part of the MVP. And from our staffing experience, we are continuing the staffing model even today. And we have seen like at least 7 times the number of candidates we get filtered out of the AI is more matching. So if earlier we have been working with 100 candidates for a job requirement and then finalize 1 candidate, today we get down to like 20-25 candidates and then sort out 1 candidate for their job. So that's the difference we have been seeing with this AI.
Okay, I think you have a great, very interesting solution here. It's just a very complex one, and I think it's worth working on the messaging because even I started to get lost at a few different points. And I was an engineer for 20 years doing microacoustics, so I do speak technical, and I just feel like there's in your messaging or presentation, there's something maybe to start to simplify so that we can really kind of sink our teeth into it and our hearts both. Sure. Just my 2 cents, but got to turn it over to Eric for our final question.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Vijay. The one thing before the final question, I would encourage, because I'm always trying to build community, is that Elizabeth and Vijay meet for coffee or have a phone call so you can A, get to know each other, but B, so you can have a more in-depth discussion, one-on-one. You can ask and answer questions and learn more about the product and learn more about each other, because that's how we build community. So, so after that, I will pose the final question to you, Vijay. What can we as a community do for you?
So as I'm presenting, I'm looking for partnerships from the HR industry or HR space, HR service providers, industry leaders who can really take this. Obviously, they should be in sync with our solution, obviously, and then they need to be influencing their audience with the solution. So that's the kind of partnership we are looking for, both from marketing and the participative nature or collaborative nature in the platform. That's number 1. And number 2, we are looking for a pre-seed of $500K fund to go along with the roadmap of the product as you're seeing the left side of it, the right side of it. So those are the 2 things we are looking for.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen one final time. And that is to say that next week we are going to be joined by Dawn Sipley at Sipley the Best. Very clever. Also in the HR space. So Vijay and Shashank, you may want to come back for that and hear what Dawn has to say. And maybe you can find some partnerships and some collaborations there. In the meantime, if you have a question for either speaker, go ahead and ask it again in the chat and give your email address. And then everybody download the chat before I sign off. And then that way you guys can follow up with those people who had questions and maybe give them a more in-depth answer. I know Mark wanted to find the Shashank's 72-page paper. So, the link to that and so on and so forth. Otherwise, we will be back here at 9 o'clock next Wednesday. And I will see you all then. Thank you all for coming, and everybody have a good and a very safe week.
And just a quick friendly reminder,
yes.
PSA, remember, in business, shy equals broke. So there's no need, if you haven't presented yet, please throw your hat in the ring, 1millioncups.com/Orlando, apply to present, and we will help you get ready to share and shine. Thank you.
Elizabeth, we'd love to hear from you and what your service does, so please consider doing that. And Tammy as well. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.